Alright guys, thank you for coming back for another video. Today we are going to do an unboxing. Ted Jenkins from Facebook. He goes on a lot of the SN95 forums or SN95 groups. And his page is Metal Mirrors Aluminum Polishing on Facebook. I'll link that down below so you guys can check him out. Not only does he do polishing of intake manifolds and whatever various accessories and things you would need or want, he also does one of the most crucial things you should do to an SN95, especially if you have a highly modified one. He makes custom fuel lines. So if you guys know, those fuel lines have been known to cause fires in the past on these cars. So Ted was gracious enough to make me a set for my yellow SN95 vert, as you guys know about. I've been putting off doing this for so long. I probably shouldn't have done so. My lines are old, beat, deteriorated, as you guys know. My car has 160,000 miles on it. Car's like 25 years old, still the original shit in it. So this probably should have been done a while ago, but I've been holding off. Again, Ted was gracious enough to make a custom set for me and send them to me. Again, I will link his page down below. You guys can check him out for these lines. He does them in the set that I got in black. He does a regular silver braided lines, I guess probably typical blue or red fittings, or I got black fittings. So you can do, you know, whatever custom stuff you want, as well as metal and aluminum polishing. If you guys notice as well, for my other videos, I am making SN95 gear. This is one of the 96 and 98 coupes. It's got a stock hood. If you guys want to check out any of these shirts or stickers, anything like that, please DM me or check me out on Facebook. Again, I'll drop that down below. PM Performance Vinyl and Graphics. So we'll go ahead and get this unboxed and see what these look like. I've had these for about a month now, and I'm going to apologize to Ted. I've been slacking on getting this video done. I just got a lot of stuff going on with life right now. The vinyl business has taken off, so I'm busy fulfilling shirts and getting stickers out. So it's got a little bit beat up in shipping. USPS did not do too good with this, but it should be pretty cut and dry. They're just fuel lines. Alright, so we got some of Ted's business cards. You guys can see them. He is your Mustang specialist, and he is at Ted Jenkins 2000. He is an old school Ford tech. This guy has a plethora of knowledge on Ford stuff and obviously SN95 stuff. So these are going to be pretty straightforward. They are these maybe -6 lines off the top of my head, and these are going to come up from the main feed area. I guess I have not done these before, so I'm not going to speak overly educated on this. I'm going to show you guys the process since I haven't done these before. Basically, you're going to have your lines that are going to stop at the firewall. So they're coming up from the gas tank, stop at the firewall, and you have two individual plastic-ish type lines coming out of there. These are going to be replacing those and going to the front of the fuel rail and coming off of the back of the fuel rails, I believe, going back in. So one for the feed and one for the return. And you're probably going to see my cat Ember jumping up on the table here. You guys might have seen her from another video. She likes to jump up here when I'm making videos. She's proud. Ember. Psst. All right, she didn't knock the camera out of view too bad here. So again, off the top of my head, these are going to be the ones coming from the firewall. These are the ends coming from the firewall, and these are going to be the pressure fit lines that go down by the area for the fuel rails. Again, I'm doing this off the top of my head. I have not looked at that car or messed with that car in forever, so again, guys, bear with me. It'll make a little bit more sense as we're starting to look at it. But I did opt to go for the black lines. I did not want them to stick out too much. Black fittings, I just think it looks clean, nice and stealth. To me, the stainless lines with the blue and red fittings. Are just a little old school for my liking. So these, I think these will do the trick. These will look nice and sleek, and they won't stick out like a sore thumb in my engine bay. Alright guys, we are back. This second part of this video is quite a few weeks later. I kind of lost momentum on finishing up the car. Just got a lot of shit going on in life. If you guys can see, we now have the second bay free. Gavin just got his license yesterday, so I fired that fucking Integra out to the street because I told him I need this bay for the next car. So if you guys haven't seen the other video yet, there's another car coming. So we are going to finish up these fuel lines today. Now that I got a little bit of space and a little bit of momentum, we're going to get these things in. We're going to be using, if you guys have not done any fuel line stuff, we're going to be using this tool. These are fuel line and AC tools. I used these last time when I did my fuel pump, my fuel filter, some other stuff. I think when I pulled off the fuel line at the rails to do my fuel pressure sender. I don't know if I'm going to use these. Those are a little bit of a pain in the ass, so I got this metal one this time. I have not used this one yet. I don't know if this is going to be easier. As you can see, it's got the different adjustment points. It's a little tight. There we go. Open that up. So it's got the different sizes, and you just spin it around the other way. My thought process was this is going to be a little bit easier because it's a little bit better angle and fulcrum point to pop off those fittings, where these plastic ones are real thin plastic and they're kind of a pain in the ass to work with. If you guys have done fuel lines before or messed with fuel lines before, I don't know if we're going to see here, I don't have enough light in here, but right where these fittings are, if you can see them, there's a little like a plastic clip in there that holds them in. So you push that fitting in, it compresses that clip, and then you can pull off the line. So we're gonna get some more light underneath here so you can see. We're gonna have a fitting there and a fitting there for each line, and then down by the firewall, which I can't see right now, to replace. It should be a pretty quick thing. I don't know if I'm gonna pop off the discharge tube to the blower yet or not, because that's all a mess there. But last time I had the car out, before I put it on jack stands, I had the car to the track, and I ran the gas pretty low. I just fired it up a couple weeks ago just to get it up on, you'll see my little ramp situation there, to be able to get jack stands underneath it. So I know it is low on gas, like very low on gas, so it should not spew up too much fuel on me. But that is something you want to be considerate of. Just obviously you don't want the shit going on hot headers, but it's going to spew gas, so the shit dries up pretty quick. Just use common sense with it. Alright, so now we have a little bit more light in here. You're going to see the top fittings. Let's see if we can tuck this light up here. So the top fittings, you're going to have one here at the front of the fuel rail, and then you're going to have one here right about at the second fuel injector of the fuel rail. Those ones are going to come off easy. They're tucked down under, go underneath the discharge pipe, and then go along the firewall. Now the reason why these were so controversial is because of where they are. I don't know if people just didn't have them tied up, but you can see that there's I'm trying to get the light better so it doesn't blind you. There's a plastic clip right here that holds these fuel lines to the fender wall, or to the shock tower. I don't know if people lost those clips and they started hanging over the header right there, or if they just got holes and started deteriorating from the heat and started blowing fuel on the headers, and that's what started causing fires. We'll see if we can get some light back here. These are going to be the tough one for me because I have all my meth shit back here, my catch can. So tucked all the way down there, you can see my hob switch right here for my meth, some of my grounds, my catch can, all this wiring and shit. And back here, let's see if we can get back at a different angle. Back all the way down there, there's the two fittings for the fuel lines, actually right here, and right there is the fuel line. So there's two fittings down there. I'm gonna have to unclip some of my wire ties for my wiring and move some of that shit out of the way to be able to get to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and clip that stuff away, push it out of the way, and I'll show you guys what it looks like and how we get it out. All right, so now we'll be able to see a little bit better. I got my Hobbs switch out of the way. Got some miscellaneous connectors. This is a connector you use to check your check engine codes. And I had some, I think the leftover smog connectors from when I removed my EGR and all that shit, so I pushed that out of the way. So you can see the return and the feed lines right here. So we just got to get and you're going to see plastic clips on those fittings. We just got to get those plastic clips off, and then we'll get those fittings off. You can see I had my vacuum lines for supercharger stuff connected up here, tied up to those fuel lines to keep them out of the way. I got one last zip tie to get off there, but I had everything tucked up all nice there. So you're going to see these plastic holders. These are what actually hold the fuel lines to the shock tower. There is a little pressure tab in there that it holds in, and you can get a screwdriver to pop that out, or if you're lucky enough to do it by hand, which I can't feel my fingers right now. So we'll go get a screwdriver quick. Flathead, pop that out. All right. So basically, you just have to pop that out of the groove. The ones by the Firewall are going to be a bitch to do. So I'm going to do the top ones first. I'm going to hit this first one in the middle of the rail, and then take this one off. Or actually, I may do them one by one. But you're going to see here, this has like a plastic crimp. I don't remember if that needs to come off or not. I know that there's definitely a metal tab right here. You just pop those off with a screwdriver, and actually right here. So this is actually a fail-safe for the line to stay connected. So you can actually just push those off. That's just pressure fit. And then it's hooked up with a zip tie to the line from the factory from Ford. So how you can see that there, you just push on those two wings and it just snaps off. So now you're at the point where you can put the tool on the underside of the line and pop this line out. So it looks like that plastic clip thing I was talking about was actually just to hold this on the line. So we'll get our tools and see which one works best. What you're gonna do, I don't know how much of this I'm gonna be able to get on camera because of the angles and being able to see this shit in the dark. So first thing you wanna do is try and get some kind of rag underneath there to catch a little bit of fuel. I don't really think the fuel is going to be an issue to me. I don't really care that much because there's not going to be that much coming out of here. But I believe this is the size you want, which is a 5/8. We're going to try it with a 5/8. So basically you're going to find the end and find the open spot, and you snap it on. And then basically you just push. You're going to crimp and push that fitting to where it sits inside the canal or the opening for this hose. You're going to push in, and you're going to actually feel it click that plastic fitting to release it, and then you can pull the line off. Sometimes it goes a little bit easier if you can spray some lubricant inside there. Sometimes you can break those loose a little bit easier. We're going to try it without. I'm going to do this first one not on camera so I can mess around with it, because I know that, that you're going to have to screw with these a little bit. I don't even know if that's the right size or if it's a 1/2 inch. I want to say 5/8 is the right size, but 1/2 inch might be a little bit easier to manipulate in there. So 1/2 inch was actually the better size. As I said, the 5/8 fit, but the 1/2 inch fit tighter, so was able to release it a lot easier. So as you're going to see there, there's an O-ring in there, and then I believe there's like a plastic clip inside this metal lip there. That's what you're actually releasing. So you're going to see I got the line started a little bit, and my fuel pressure sensor might get in the way here. But we'll see if we can coax that bad boy out. And kink that line a little bit, and you're going to see, you know, pretty much no fuel came out of there. Again, I did run this not dry, but you know, I did run it quite a bit low. So this is what you're dealing with here. You have two O-rings, and then You can see like a spring inside there. I think that's actually what you're pushing this tool into. And I'll get the tool off and I'll show you how you're pressing that in there. All right, so we're gonna get the tool off, and you're gonna see that that snaps on to the flared part at the end there. So you want to push these out, get that off. So basically what you're doing here, if we can get enough light in here and hold the camera at the right angle, you're gonna see that spring in there, and you're gonna see this tool. That tool pushes in there, and it's supposed to push inside that spring, I guess, and that's probably why it compresses a little bit. Push it inside that spring, and it pops the tension off of the end of the flare down there, and then that's what releases the line. So we got one off. We'll trace it back and see if we can get this one off and get them off of the Firewall. As I showed you guys before, just flip that clip out of the way and stick the push lock fitting in there. Get it on the line. This one is a bigger size. Yeah, this one's a bigger size. This one might be a 5/8. Why Ford used different sizes, I don't know. But we all own Mustangs, so we know Ford does some weird shit. Actually, I don't even think a 5/8 is gonna work here. Maybe it might. All right, and got that one. A little bit of fuel, not much. A little bit of schmutz on the O-rings, but that's about as easy as it is to get those off. Again, you can fight with them a little bit. I know down by my fuel filter was a fight. The one down by the Firewall is going to be fight just because it's a shitty angle. But at least you guys get the idea of what you got to do to get those released. I don't know how much footage I'm going to be able to get back in that crevice. I'm going to try and show you guys because the fittings are a little bit different back there. But let me get these plumbed through, and then we'll see what everything looks like. Basically all I'm going to do, I pulled the first line out from the clip of the Firewall. When you push this upside down, you will have a little bit of residual fuel in the line pushed down. So I'll just keep a rag up here. To me, again, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to be driving this car for a couple months. This fuel is going to be evaporated and dried up within a couple minutes. So I don't stress fuel shit as much as most people do. I know that may be a little bit ignorant, but again, my experience with it is it's not as scary as most people make it out to be. Other than fuel having a hole and spitting over your headers. That's a big deal. Doing shit like I'm doing isn't a big deal. All right, so we're going to feed this out, and you'll see a little bit of fuel coming out of there, not a ton. All right, so we got the lines broke free out of the clips. We got them hanging over here, and we just got to figure out how to get them out of the Firewall. Back of the Firewall, I was saying that the clips are a little bit different. So instead of having the metal clips that you could just pop off with your fingers real quick, they have these plastic clips. These are the ones, and again, this has been a number of years, but if I recall, these are the clips that are what's actually at your fuel filter. These are a little bit of a pain in the ass because they go completely through like a channel into the clip, and you can't pry them out and pull them. I actually stuck a flathead screwdriver down in this area and popped them out that way. Make sure you pay attention to how you're popping this out. It's not just going to sit in the channel and stay connected. You got to pop this thing all the way out, and it will want to fly on you. So just you know, there is a little bit of an area down there where it can drop into not like a channel, but like frame rail area. It can drop into there and catch it, but just be prepared. This may go flying on you, and I don't think you're going to need them for the new fittings, but you know, just pay attention to that. Just make sure you're not losing shit in your engine bay. So I have the push fitting, and guys, bear with me. I know this is not ideal. POV view is not going to work in here because I don't have my head down there. So get a little bit of light. So if you guys can see, right here is the fitting, And I am, let's push this vacuum line out of the way. I'm just basically going to push up on this, and that's where there's a lot of fuel. That's where you want to have your rag, which I probably should have paid more attention to that, but we'll wipe up the fuel. And we'll get this line out of here so you can see what it looks like. Get on there some more light. So this is the fitting that plastic thing came out of. You can see these channels that fit into, and then you're going to see in this one there's a plastic fitting that pushes up and maybe a spring underneath that, whereas on this side of the rail there is no plastic fitting, and it just looks like you're pushing that spring out of the way. But this is what the top side line, or actually this is the bottom line that goes to the bottom side of the firewall. So I guess this is the return, and maybe this was the top side of the rail. So we'll put this on the side, we'll pop the second one out and clean up some fuel. We're gonna have to attack this one a little bit differently here because the lines, if you can see them, are hidden a little bit more. So this one, no matter how I spin the line, I can't see the plastic clip to pull off. In typical Ford fashion, none of the lines were the same whatsoever. So to get off the last fitting at the firewall, that was a 3/8. I thought that there was a clip inside that one, so let me show you what I'm talking about. So on the return line, you had this plastic clip. As I said, I had to jam a flathead in there to pry that out. So because that's one of those plastic clip fittings, I thought that the other one was the same way. And looking at it from this angle, you can see that there's a plastic fitting in there. So I'm trying to figure out how the fuck to pry that thing out. As you can see, there's nothing sticking out on any of the sides like the other one did. So I'm jamming that the 1/2 inch one in there like I did the other one. It wasn't fitting. I felt something. You can feel it from the bottom that there's something in there. I didn't know if it had to pry out. So I just said, fuck it. I went down a size, went to 3/8, popped it up, and boop, pops right out. So that is what the inside of the feed looks like. Basically, you're just pushing that clip up there, and it's releasing these two clips on the side to pop that out. So this one was a 1/2. You know, this one was a 3/8. That one was a 1/2. That one was a, I don't know, 5/8, and that one was a 1/2 or a 3/8. So they're all different sizes, all different technologies. These two were kind of the same. These two were completely different. But again, that's Ford for you. That's the kind of dumb shit that they do. But now we got these lines out. Now we can try and figure out how these go on. So this is going to be your fittings at the firewall. This one's going to be the feed, I believe, and this one's the return. Actually, this one might be feed, and that one's the return. And these are the ones that go up to the firewall. So we'll get that planned out and be back in a second while I swap batteries. The next thing you need to decide is if you're going to go with the stock routing of the lines, or if you're going to try and go with a bump out at the back and go underneath the intake manifold. That way you're not feeding fuel over the frame rail again, which is close to the headers. Because I have the stock manifold, you don't really have a ton of room to go under. You can see a little bit of light there. It may look like there's a lot of room, but right near that number 3 injector, I think it is there is not enough room, I don't think, to push that stuff under. If I had a different intake manifold, like a Fox style manifold, or I had a intake spacer of some sort, that would probably route a little bit better underneath there, and that would probably be a wiser choice. However, because I don't have that, I'm going to route the stock routing where you route it out underneath the discharge pipe and along the frame rail. Your guys' situation may vary. If you have a different intake manifold, it would probably be better to route the fuel lines differently than I'm going to in the stock location, but again, my situation will not allow that. One thing to mention, you want to look at the ends of the lines that are going towards the firewall. This one is going to have a clip. If you can see this will actually spin off. So instead of having a plastic clip, I guess you feed this underneath the lips of the barbs on the line, and then you fit this over top and then screw it in rather than doing the plastic clips. So as I understand, this is going to be the feed line, and the way you'll know where it goes is when you're taking it off. You're going to see this one has the smaller barb. The smaller barb goes into the middle of the rail, which is the feed, and then the one with the larger barb is going to be the return. That's at the end of the rail. So you can see that has the larger end, and you're going to see on this one's going to actually have a push lock. So Ted already does these. These are already tightened, so they should just be drop in. There's swivels on all these fittings, so you can get it the way you want it. But as I understand, you don't need to undo these with the way he did these. You should just be able to pop it right on and go to town. So what we're going to do, we're going to get a little bit of grease to grease up the O-rings, and then I'll show you guys what I'm talking about with the routing of the lines and popping the fittings back on. First, I'm going to feed through the fuel feed line. And again, as I mentioned, this is going to be the one with the smaller fitting. So if you guys can see, I'm gonna tuck this down. I think this went behind the breather and underneath the discharge pipe, and then down through to the firewall. So I'll adjust this. If this gets a little wonky as I'm going, you can adjust this since you have swivels. But just to get this fed through and get this kind of clean, I believe this went under my fuel pressure sensor, and I'm going to get this into, we're just going to kind of get it into the general area, and then we can not modify, but get it into the clips once we get the lines fed in there. So let's get this line in here. So what I'm learning from this task is that I'm going to be getting a light that goes underneath the hood. When I set up my lights up top, I did not think about the hood being up and blocking out all this 9,000 or 12,000 lumens of light that I have. So lesson learned. Think about that when you're setting up lights. It's great for everything else, but under the hood, it's not fabulous. More importantly, is when I'm trying to record for you guys, it's not all that great. So, lesson learned. All right. So we got the return line fed in there. And this straight through is probably going to be a little bit of a bitch. For the return line, I decided I'm going to go around the front side of the oil breather. It will not fit around the back side of the oil breather, so, or the oil fill for you guys. I'm not sure I like that setup. That's going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass for me to get that on there. I mean, I can make it work, so we're gonna make it work. So we're gonna go ahead and get a little dab of grease, lube up these O-rings, and pop these on. So I believe you want to have that one is the bigger one. So the front one again is going to be the 5/8. I believe you want to have this fitting on there again. So you're going to fit that on there and then push that up through to fit onto the, to get past the barb. So we'll get it onto the barb first. Get the line over. Got the O-rings on, we just gotta get the fitting in. I think this is where we went with the, oh, dropped it. This is where we went with the half, because the half might have worked better, possibly. No, it didn't. All right, let me grab 3/8 again. And this is where you kind of have to fiddle around with this tool a little bit to get it to fit back into the channel. All right. Now, when you hear that clip like that, that means it's back on. Give a few tugs, and that's not going anywhere. Now, onto the feed. Dab a little bit of grease on those O-rings. And that one was the get mixed up now. This one was the 5/8, I think. So we'll get that onto the feed line. Get that one in there. Again, this is a little tight for my setup, so I'm gonna have to wiggle these around a little bit. I took off the clip on my fuel pressure sensor. We're gonna try getting the line on that way, and then we'll readjust and see if I can get my sensor on. This one's tough with this angle, and I'm kind of hunched over the car, killing my back to do this. All right, now it is on. So it is nice to have those swivels. You can move the line around a little bit like I did. You have to push up. These are tough. You got to push up on the fitting while you're kind of jiggling the line a little bit. And then when you hear that audible click, you know it's in. So now that I have the line on, we'll see if my sensor will plug back in. And it looks like it will now. So I guess it was just a clearance issue getting it with the sensor still plugged in. So you'll see here, we're gonna run the lines. We're probably gonna run both of these lines back behind the alternator. I believe that's how they were before. But again, that kind of scares me a little bit as well. As long as they don't rub through, I'm fine, but we got fueled right by electrical, so, and a spinning electrical thing, so not exactly sure how I feel about that yet. I'm gonna play around with the routing a little bit and see if I can come up with something that's a little bit better. You see here what I'm talking about. It's going around the oil fill, and right there's the main line for the alternator. I don't necessarily like that, so I'm gonna see if I can route them back a little bit differently. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to because of the tight space that I have. Let's see what we can figure out. All right, it took some finagling, but it's putting a little stress on that return line, but I was able to tuck them both behind the oil fill. It makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. Again, I don't know if that's an issue, it just doesn't feel right to me, so that feels a little bit better to me. Push the lines down, and we're going to get it back into the plastic clip. So we're going to do the feed line up top, return line on the bottom, just because that makes sense to me. And clip those back in. If anything, these feel a tad more obtrusive the way I have. Maybe it's just the routing. This feels a tad more obtrusive than the stock lines did. The stock lines seem to tuck a little bit better. Again, you may have to play with the routing to see what feels good for you. That's right around a metal clip. I don't know if I'm going to like that too much, because there is a chance that that can rub through. Not sure if you can see where I have these lines for the vacuum lines, or right there's a fuel line. So I definitely don't want that rubbing through. I may have to adjust that clip a little bit. You have these through, and then we're going to get back down to the lines back there. We're going to do the feed line of the Firewall. This is that clip or fitting that I showed you guys earlier. It's going to screw into the bottom of the line. This is going to be a pain in the ass. Make sure you do not drop this, because it will suck. So right as I say that, I'm probably going to drop it because I'm trying to look at it and film. But basically, if you can see, there's those little ribs. It's going to fit between those ribs and fit on like that, and then you screw that into the bottom of that line, which I can't do while I'm recording, but you guys should get the idea. Fitting that you have to screw in back there is a complete bitch. You have to hold that thing on with your fingers, pop the top on so it seats in the, I guess there's internal O-rings, seat it in there, and then try and manipulate it with your hands like that to get it started, and then you can kind of finger tighten it. It doesn't feel right that you can only finger tighten it. I'm not feeling any open threads, so it is as tight as it's going to go. You can't get a tool back there, which is why I'm saying this. But finger tight, it feels like it's going to be as tight as it can go. I did put a little bit of grease on the ends of these fittings, and the last one you're going to have to do here is just the straight push lock. Trying to get these lines out of the way here. So guys, you guys may not have as much shit back here as I do, so maybe a tad easier for you than it is for me, so just keep that in mind. I have a lot of shit in there I can't exactly remove and record and try and pop this damn thing on and still move stuff out of the way. So just gonna basically get that on there and then feel around for when it's seated. And it should pop on. So with a little bit of force, that one went on as well. So now we just got to tuck these up a little bit nicer. And again, this is where you're gonna have to fight with other shit in here that you may not have, but I do. But we just got to get these lines into this clip here. This is going to conclude the video. We'll see if you guys can see the lines in here, all done. As you can see, nice and sleek, black, blends in with everything. Everything is all tucked in there now. I am filming this after the fact because I was going through and doing some post-video editing and realized that the last part / conclusion of my video got knocked out for some reason. Ended up being pictures instead of videos, so I had to go back and re-record this. But again, I want to thank Ted Jenkins for everything went in. It was a success. My scenario is a little bit tighter engine bay, probably than most of you guys are going to have. So for me, it was a little bit tougher. I tried to give you guys this scenario from somebody who has never done this before. I have never fucked with these fuel lines, in the bay at least. So I was doing this like a first person doing this to give you guys the best instruction rather than, hey, I'm a guy that's done this 50 times. This is how you do it. Hopefully that'll actually make it a little bit better. It's a little bit more raw and uncut for you guys, so you guys can see the kind of problems to expect or little issues that may pop up. One thing I will say is the aftermarket lines are less pliable than the ones that I got from Ted. They are thicker lines. It's a different material, so they're going to be less pliable. That may or may not cause some issues for you when you're routing. Just realize that they're going to be a little bit thicker and less pliable. Other than that, it went without a hitch. It took me a little bit longer because I was recording and trying to figure it out as I was going. Again, first time things. I would say plan an hour maybe for it, but realistically, if you're pretty mechanically inclined, it's going to take you 20 minutes to a half an hour. I'm half retarded, so it took me a little bit longer. So again, I want to thank you, Ted, for a great product. It's a beautiful product. While I picked the stealthy look, it still looks great in the bay. Guys, check out his Facebook page. I'm going to link that below. And again, Ted is a plethora of knowledge on the SN95s, probably other Fords, because he's done this for a while. We want to thank him for bringing this to the community for us as a nice one-stop shop package. You don't have to hunt around for the lines. You don't have to make lines. If you've made lines in the past, at least with the metal, not the metal lines, but the stuff instead of the metal braiding, that stuff's a pain in the ass. If you don't do it right, it's just a real pain in the ass. It'll give you little prickers in your fingers, and that sucks. You can't ever get those wires out of your fingers. More importantly, if you've ever had the source fittings, and I have a whole thing here, fittings and nuts and bolts and stuff, so if you've ever had the source fittings, you know it's a pain in the ass to find the right fittings. This is what is great about his package. You don't have to source everything. It's put together. The stuff is pressure tested to, I think, 150 PSI he pressure tests these to. So he knows that these are good before they even go out the door. Besides the fact, again, Ted does these, but he also does polishing. Check him out if you guys want your intakes polished, brackets, accessory brackets, I don't know, whatever you can think of, valve covers, anything you can think of that you want polished, wheels, whatever, check Ted out. Again, great customer service, just great guy all in all. Anytime I've had any tech questions, I usually bounce them off him, and he can give me a little bit of knowledge from the experience that he's had working at the dealerships. So thanks again, guys, for the support. Make sure to check Ted out. And I think we're a little bit over 700 subscribers now, so we are catching up. Hopefully, we're going to get to about 1,000 by the end of the new year, or by the new year, let's say end of this year. It's a little optimistic, but hopefully this video will push it up to the top for you guys. So again, guys, I appreciate the continued support. Thank you very much. If it weren't for you guys, I probably would not be doing this, and I'd just be working on my car like a regular guy. So stay tuned for the next car. If you guys have seen in my other video, there is another car coming. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I think you guys are going to like the content. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks a lot, guys.